I'm gonna do this in reverse order, just because why not? Starting with Rashid. Like, Rashid, I'm probably just gonna put straight in question mark tier because I've played this character a lot. My gut instinct is that Rashid actually probably does beat or has an advantage against JP, but it's just way too soon to call. Like, a lot of Rashid's meaties rely on a full charge fireball, and if you've got like a projectile that you can put over JP on wake up, that's really good. Let me show you in game actually. I'm gonna jump into the game a couple of times just for examples. Yeah, so like if let's say that I end like any Rashid combo with heavy eagle spike like this, and then I do the full charge fireball like this. This sequence is really, really annoying for JP to deal with, because that is a projectile meaty that's super plus, and the problem with that is, as JP, you have like no answer for that. So like, I'm gonna start out with OD amnesia. That's EX counter. It immediately gets counter hit, and you eat 10,000 damage for doing it. So that doesn't work. Okay, let's try waking up with level 1 super. Doesn't work. Projectile. Alright, level 2 super. Doesn't work. The only thing in JP's entire arsenal which can stop Rashid from getting his best Oki starter is wake up level 3. This is the only thing he has that can beat that. So this kind of situation is what's making me think this could be a kind of tricky matchup. It feels like Rashid might just get one knockdown and then just maul you. But yeah, I need more experience to be sure. I mean, you can parry on wake up, but the thing is, this is a multi-hit fireball, so you'd have to perfect parry 3 times in a row. And even then, I'm not convinced you'd be plus. Even if you perfect parried this 3 times, I think Rashid might recover in time. Zangief. Updated labels. There we go. Okay, I've made it clearer. Yes. So anyway, what I was saying was, Gief predictably struggles against JP, in my opinion. This is probably one of JP's best matchups. There are some stuff that Gief players have discovered to make it a little bit less painful. This isn't like a Street Fighter V Gief matchup where it's like 7-3 like against Dhalsim or whatever. This is a bad matchup for Gief, in my opinion, but not unwinnable. The main thing is the Gief players need to learn how to use Stand Fierce properly, like I'll show you. So like, initially, a lot of JP players were just winning this matchup by buffering Stand Fierce into Fireball. Don't do that. Gief Stand Fierce can interrupt a lot of JP's autopilot strings. This even extends to EX Fireball. So like, Gief does have ways of like making the matchup a little bit uncomfortable for JP, but that doesn't change the fact that JP can just zone the shit out of him. As long as you don't get too autopilot, this matchup is definitely in JP's favor. Okay, up next we have Lily. I am hesitating about this one a little bit. I'm going to put it in slight advantage for now, but this could drop down to even over time as I explore it a bit more. I've played this matchup a lot with Problem X, and I think Problem X is probably the best Lily player right now. So I do have a good amount of experience in this matchup. It's a little bit of a weird one because I think JP kind of mauls Lily at round start. But if she starts to get a bit of momentum and starts to get some wind charges, then it gets a lot more annoying because wind charges let her just yeet through fireballs for free. And most of JP's specials are projectiles. So yeah, so like you have to be a bit more proactive against Lily to deny her wind charges. But I still think that just because JP is like in the controlling position at the start of the round, I think this is probably slightly in JP's favor. Cammy. Cammy is, in my opinion, the hardest matchup for JP. I don't like this matchup. I'm kind of not even sure if I'd put it in disadvantage. I might put it in slight disadvantage. To be completely honest, I don't even know if I'd put anything in this category. Like, I might just completely ignore the disadvantage and just do slight disadvantage, because I don't think any character, like, truly bodies JP. And I think that extends to a lot of characters in this game. There aren't that many heavily skewed matchups. Outside of, like, Gief, most matchups in this game feel like they're not that one-sided generally. So yeah, so I'm gonna put Cammy in slight disadvantage, but I don't think I'll put anyone in heavy disadvantage right now. We'll see. So this one's pretty straightforward, I think, to explain why it's annoying for JP. It basically comes down to 3 things. Like, Cammy does 3 things. She's at this distance. She either does this, this, or this. You can be ready for like 2 of those options, I think. The full jump, the dive kick, and the spin knuckle. All 3 of these things are reactable, but it's really, really hard to get your muscle memory on point to be able to check all 3. You kind of have to just like dedicate your focus to 2 of them and hope they don't do the 3rd. Or at least you do if you're like me and you have bad mental stack. The other thing that's kind of annoying about this matchup is just spin knuckle in general is kind of a unique move in this game. I think this is the only move in the entire game that is anti-projectile and also plus on block. So this makes it a very annoying move because Cammy players aren't taking that much of a risk when they do it against JP. Because even if they slightly mistime it, or like they guess wrong on a fireball, it's still plus on block. It's basically Lily EX Condor without wind charges, yeah. You can DI it, you can neutral jump it, you can jab it out of startup. Like, this thing is quite slow. There are options to check it. If it was just this, if it was only spin knuckle, this move would be very easy to deal with. But like I said, the problem is that you have to be ready for this. But then as soon as you start focusing too much on checking the spin knuckle, she does that and then she's in. So it's one of those things where like each of these individual options are manageable, but it's just hard to keep track of all of them. Yeah, also EX spin knuckle and also hooligan is yet another way for her to like skip neutral. Yeah, EX spiral arrow. She's got a lot of ways to just yeet in from distance, which makes it difficult to keep her out. The other thing I should mention is that her level 3 is probably the best anti-JP level 3 in the game. Once she has level 3 stocked, it becomes very difficult for JP to do anything, because this just immediately bodies like any fireball, any attempt to put out a fireball or a portal or a spike. I'm risking 50% of my health because she can just do this from full screen. So yeah, tricky matchup. I think this is the hardest matchup, but I'm still going to only put it in slight disadvantage, just because I think the system mechanics in this game are so available to everyone that even all this stuff is manageable. Can you bait it with fake fireball? You can if you do it early enough. You can do a fireball feint to bait out the level 3, which I've done a couple times. But this level 3 is so fast, it's what, like 9 frames startup, that half the time, even if you do a fireball feint, you'll still get punished, because feint has a decent amount of startup. Up next, we have Marissa, or Marisa, if you want to sound like an Italian, but I like to upset the Italians, so I say Marissa. I think this matchup's even. I've played this matchup with Big Bird a lot. It's one of those matchups where like it's hard to put a number on it or even like rank it because it's kind of unstable. So I think JP has the tools to keep Marissa out. She doesn't move that fast on the ground, and it can be a little bit tricky for her to get in sometimes. But also this character hits so insanely hard and capitalizes so much off a minor mistake that it's hard to even call this matchup. So I'm kind of leaning towards 5-5. I think Big Bird thinks the same thing, I think. But I think both of us agree that this is like a super unstable matchup. Up next, we have Manon. JP beats Manon. I'm not sure quite how much by. I kind of don't want to put it in strong advantage, but it's kind of like halfway between these. It's not as bad as the Zangief matchup, but I would say it's harder than... Sorry, it's easier than Lily. If I could, I would put it in like the halfway point between these, but I'm going to stick it here for now. I'm going to put it in slight advantage. This one's been debated quite a lot already. I think IDOM and 801 Strider said that this was a 5-5 matchup, which I find quite surprising. They think Manon can kind of handle JP, or at least like fight back. Like, Manon has a very slow drive rush, which is usually a bad thing against JP. Having a slow drive rush against JP is, like, automatically probably not a great matchup, because you can't really get around his zoning very easily. She has one of the worst drive rushes in the game, and she doesn't have easy access to plus frames when she does get in. So, yeah, she can snowball. Like, I do still lose to Manon players sometimes just because they get a few medal levels and then just chuck you twice. But I don't think that's enough to make it a bad matchup. I've played this quite a lot with like Luffy and stuff and Shivs, and I think this is an advantage for JP. Up next we have Deejay. I've been playing this matchup a lot recently with Mystic. I think this is a slight... I used to have this as even, but I'm starting to think this is slightly in Deejay's favour. I find this matchup annoying for the opposite reasons that I was just saying. I find Manon easy. Manon has a very slow drive rush. Deejay has the king of all drive rushes. And it's actually surprisingly annoying to get around Deejay's zoning. As far as I know, just looking at the cast, I think Deejay is like the only character with a meterless 2-hit fireball that he can just throw out whenever. And that's actually kind of annoying for JP. Like, Guile can do a 2-hit fireball, but he has to do the Sonic Cross first, or whatever it's called. Dhalsim has a 2-hit fireball. He has to charge it for about 20 minutes to get it to 2 hits. But like, Deejay can throw out a 2-hit fireball just whenever he wants, which is actually kind of awkward for JP to play around. And if you get sucked too much into the zoning game, if you get baited into trying to do a zoning war against Deejay, as soon as you overextend, drive rush. You see that flash of green, and then you see your health disappear. Another reason why this is a bad matchup, I think, for JP is Deejay's EX Fireball as an Oki tool. Same reasons that I just demonstrated against Rashid. It's also good for Deejay. I'll show you. Yeah, so Deejay is one of the blessed characters in this game who has an EX Fireball that's plus point blank. There aren't actually that many of these. Most, even like, I think Ryu's EX Fireball isn't plus point blank. I think quite a few EX Fireballs only get plus after a little bit of spacing. But Deejay is plus 2 point blank after EX Fireball, which means that he can do the same thing that I just said Rashid can do, where if Deejay gets like any corner advantage with the EX Fireball, and it will beat literally everything except Wake Up Level 3. Because JP does not have good projectile counters. So yeah, this is one thing that like is going to be a consistent factor across the board. If your character has a way to meaty with a projectile that's plus, that's automatically annoying for JP. It doesn't mean it's like an instant bad matchup. What else? Deejay also has some good normals for this matchup, like what's the button for it? This thing, forward medium kick. This thing that goes half screen and is plus on block for reasons I still don't fully understand is also very annoying for JP to deal with. Of course, drive rush, as I said, is a nightmare. Oh, one thing I should say. This link is so annoying to deal with. A lot of Deejay players in this matchup like to just do drive rush, crouch, medium kick. Like, you'll just see them only ever do crouch, medium kick out of drive rush. But the really annoying one is when Deejay players are about this range and they do drive rush jab into back heavy kick. I don't know why this link exists. I hate this link. This doesn't feel like it should be a link. But this is like a massive damage combo starter. I don't know what the inputs are for his EX Just Cool. Yeah, that. This is extremely hard to check if he decides to just drive rush jab at you. Drive rush jab generally is kind of becoming the meta. Angry Bird did it a million times at Evo. But it's particularly annoying with Deejay because it's also something that he can convert into his maximum damage routes. He gets big plus frames here. If he wants to be a bit safer, he can go into medium punch, which is also plus, I should say. Deejay's stand medium punch, one of the very few plus on block mediums in this game. This thing's plus 2 for some reason, which is a very rare thing to have in this game. So like, a string like that, drive rush jab into medium punch starts a combo on hit and is plus 2 on block. So yeah, Deejay's got great pressure. He can keep up with the zoning. He can Oki with EX Fireball. So yeah, I think Deejay is a tricky matchup. Blanka up next. I'm going to go slightly against the grain on this one. I have spoken to a couple Blanka players that quite a few of them think that Blanka has an advantage against JP. I actually think this is an even matchup. When the game first came out, I found this matchup very difficult because I didn't know how to deal with Blanka Ball. Like, I was basically just free to every Blanka, just doing YOLO Blanka Ball. But as this has evolved, I'm starting to think that JP can actually do okay against Blanka. I think it's even. Blanka has very good pressure, he's got good buttons, he's got lots of ways of approaching. But JP does have options to deal with it. So what I like to do is I like to wait until Blanka is about an inch away from hitting me with Blanka Ball. And then DI. You actually get quite a good combo out of this as well. You can do this. So 3k damage. Yeah, I think this is not universal. I think not every DI has as much range as JP's. The timing is a little bit strict. Like, if you just do this YOLO as soon as you see a Blanka Ball, this happens. And you die for it. But yeah, if you wait... The other reason why you want to wait until the last possible seconds is it also creates like an option select. Where if the Blanka tries to bait out the drive impact by doing say light Blanka Ball instead of heavy, then it won't come out. So I've got two recordings here, one with light and one with heavy. Because I'm waiting until Blanka is like really close to me, it makes it much easier to not get baited out by the light and the medium. So as well as being a good punish option, if you wait until the last second, it creates like a defensive option select. Where you won't get it coming out on the bait versions, but you will get it to come out on the heavy. So yeah, a lot of people try and punish Blanka Ball with like perfect parries, which is a lot more strict. And also you get way less damage. So it's not this alone, like this interaction doesn't define the entire matchup, but this is the kind of thing that I've been evolving as the matchup has been changing. There are things JP can do to manage Blanka stuff. Okay, up next we have Ken. Ken is one where it's like my gut wants to put him here because Angry Bird has absolutely destroyed my soul in this matchup. I've lost so many first to 10s, like 10-1 against Angry Bird, but I've got to swallow my pride and do this. It's a 5-5 matchup against Ken. As much as I don't want to admit it, Angry Bird's just too good at the game. But yeah, so Ken is kind of a unique case for the Shotos in this game. I'll talk about it a bit more when I get to Ryu, but Ken does much better than the similar archetypes for a couple reasons. But the main one is that Ken has much better ways of skipping neutral. So first things first, Ken has like an incredible drive rush. Very fast, huge distance. That's all automatically a plus for Ken. But what really makes his drive rush a nightmare to deal with is this. Drive rush stand fierce is a crazy button. It has insane range, and I don't know if you guys can see these active frames. But if I press this fierce at like half screen, it's still active when it reaches JP, so it's very hard to like space yourself as a JP player to make this whiff. Because for reasons unknown to science, Ken's Stand Fierce has 5 active frames. So it can be anything from +2 to, I think +7 on block on the last active frame. That was +5. And yeah, this is where it gets even more annoying. As soon as you start checking the Stand Fierce, as soon as you start pressing a button here, they start doing this. And that will counter hit you. If you do Drive Rush into Dragon Lash, the sudden stop in forward movement bypasses the button that you press to check the Drive Rush, and this will probably punish counter you. So just this mix-up alone, Drive Rush Stand Fierce and Drive Rush Dragon Lash is extremely annoying to stop. This is a very difficult way to stop him approaching. The other thing is that Ken has an EX Fireball, which was designed by Satan. In any other Street Fighter game, having an EX Fireball doesn't knock down is a negative for Ken. In this game, it's yeah, it's a positive. Yeah, there you go. So because his EX Fireball has EX advantage and also punish counters if it goes through like a ghost, anytime I throw a ghost and he throws EX Fireball at the same time, even from full screen, he can absolutely demolish your health for doing that. Yeah, Deejay can do something similar. But yeah, this is a very strong thing to have against JP. Talking about Dragon Lash, as well as being useful out of Drive Rush, just doing Dragon Lash in general is a good part of Ken's kit. This thing goes over lows, which is important because JP's crouch medium kick is a good button at like this distance. So like Ken players can try and like yeet in for free and test your reactions. To me this is like it's very similar to Cammy's spin knuckle, where if you're ready for it, this thing is very slow and you can check it and jab him out of it. But again, it's a case of like the mental stack is very high, and if you focus too much on like jabbing this, then he might jump in on you, he might drive rush, he might drive impact, he might EX Fireball. So again, it's a case of like information overload where Dragon Lash in isolation isn't that scary, but it becomes a nightmare when you're dealing with everything else. Mr. Edmund Honda. Where am I going to put Honda? I think Honda is even as well. It's potentially, if I'm being really optimistic, it's potentially a very slight advantage for JP, I think. This is very similar to the Blanka matchup for me, where like early on I hated this matchup. I could not stand this matchup, but it's one of those things where the more you learn to perfect parry, the more you learn to take advantage of the system mechanics, the weaker Honda feels to me. So like week 1, I was like, oh god, Honda is going to be a nightmare for JP. But the more that I've practiced and the more that I understand the game, I feel like this character is getting less and less scary over time. So I'm going to stick Honda in even, because he still has annoying tools. Like headbutt is still annoying, butt slam is still annoying, he has a command grab which is scary. He has a decent drive rush for a pseudo grappler. So yeah, I'm going to go for even on that. Dhalsim. Dhalsim's an interesting one because if you asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said JP wins this. And if you asked Mr. Crimson a few weeks ago, he would have said Dhalsim wins this. So I have played this matchup with Crimson quite a few times, and I've also played it against quite a few other good EU sim players. I'm also going to put this in even, just because of averages. Like, you could put it as a slight advantage for JP, you could put it as a slight advantage for sim, but I'm going to go with even. The main thing that you've got to work out in this matchup is how to keep sim on the floor. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So the way this matchup's kind of developed since it first came out is that the goal with JP is to keep Dhalsim as close to the ground as possible. Because if Sim gets to the top of the screen and starts doing like this kind of stuff, it becomes very annoying for JP to deal with it, because Spike doesn't reach high enough to catch him unless you catch him on the way down. Obviously none of his fireballs reach up to there. So like if you want to get Sim down from this height, quite often what you have to do is you have to start like getting underneath him and trying to anti-air. But this is kind of scary because Sim's jump fierce in this game. This normal here out of float has an absolutely gigantic hitbox. This thing hits like 10 miles underneath Dhalsim and usually leads to a combo even from like up here. So if you start trying to chase down Dhalsim while he's just chilling at the top of the screen, and they start doing this, it gets a little bit sketchy because like that happens. You try and approach and you get slapped in the face by Jump Fierce. So yeah, the goal really is to like use your projectiles in a way where if Sim tries to jump in the gaps, he'll get clipped. So stuff like this. If you do like medium fireball into spike, this has a small enough gap that if the Dhalsim player tries to escape by jumping, you can catch them. So this is kind of where the mind game of the matchup comes down to. You want to try and make the Dhalsim player uncomfortable with pressing up in the middle of projectile strings. Because if you do that, if you leave too much of a gap and he gets to the top of the screen outside of spike height, this becomes a very annoying matchup. How good is teleport against JP? I mean, teleport is good. Like, if you read a spike and the Sim player does like a teleport, it will lead to a full combo. But it is also risky. Because, like, if it's usually just a read. So, like, if I do go for a spike here, like, as you can see, he can hit me from behind. But it is kind of a guess. Usually the Sim player is doing it as, like, a read. They're not reacting to a spike and then doing teleport. And that means that, like, if you just check this teleport with jab, JP actually gets really easy conversions out of this. Because JP's stand fierce has juggle potential, all you have to do is just stand jab the teleport on reaction, and then convert into stand fierce into, you know, whatever max damage you want to do. So the teleport is useful, but it is risky as well. You can't really use the portal very effectively when he's at the top of the screen. I probably should have explained that as well. One thing about portal, so the spike that comes out of this does track to the opponent's location, but there are limits to this. And the main limit is that this spike can never go past horizontal. So it can kind of come out of the portal sideways, but it will never go upwards. The spike here can never go above its starting position. Like that, see? The spike will never go up. It will go sideways at best. So that's another reason why it's a bit annoying when he's up there, floating around. And if I teleport to it, it doesn't really help me. Because I appear underneath him, and I'm likely to get hit by Jump Fierce. Juri is up next. I think this is another slight disadvantage matchup. I consider Juri and Ken to be very similar characters. Their game plan is very similar. They both have very good drive rushes. They can both approach from long range. They both have good fireballs for different reasons. So Ken's EX fireball is scary, and Juri's charge fireball is scary, like the Fuha charge. Because this thing can be plus on block up close. The reason that I think this matchup just goes from even to a slight disadvantage is just because Juri has more ways to change her air approach. So Ken only has like one jump arc. He can do jump EX air tatsu for a kind of semi dive kicky thing, but it's not very good and it's unsafe on block. Juri has a much more threatening dive kick, and I think that one thing is basically what separates those two matchups. Yeah, so it's the same kind of issue that I have with Cammy, where you've got to be able to deal with like full jump, dive kick, an incredibly good drive rush, and her low fireball. And again, all of these things by themselves aren't that hard to deal with, but again, it's like another case of like mental stack overload, where eventually you're just gonna like get opened up by one of these, and it's not gonna be fun. Her dive kick can also be safe. If you hit the toes, it can be -3, which is also a little bit annoying. This happens more often than I'd like. A lot of Juri players accidentally space this correctly, I feel. But yeah, this drive rush, man. I think overall, I think Juri actually has the best drive rush in the game. Deejay's is a little bit faster, but the normals that Juri has out of hers are better, in my opinion. So like stand medium kick is crazy good. Stand medium punch is really good as well, because she can do like that. This pressure string is really good. handstand heavy kick is good as well. Has a lot of range and is +1 for some reason. Yeah, she's got a lot of ways to approach. She's got a lot of ways to get around zoning, and she can hold her own in the neutral. I know it sounds like I'm making the same points over and over again, and I kind of am, but that's just to illustrate where JP's weaknesses are. Having the ability to do a meaty fireball on someone's wake up against JP is very, very good. So like that. Basic knockdown into meaty low fireball. You know, +14 on block, and also completely immune to any reversal option except for perfect parry in level 3. It's tricky. I have to actually think on defense as JP, which is the one thing that JP players don't like doing. I do not like thinking. I want the game to play itself for me. I want to be carried. Kimberly. Kimberly, I think, is the last... I'm going to say last slight disadvantage. I think these 4 characters give you the most trouble. Kimberly, again, you'll notice the trend here is continuing. Kimberly has very, very good mobility and lots of ways to get in, which makes neutral and space control very hard. So like if I have Kimberly in neutral like this, say at round start, I have to be ready for EX air teleport, ground teleport, run up kicks, which is slow but plus on block, run overhead, run slide, drive rush, full jump, and fake jump into elbow drop. And again, it's just yet another case of like the matchup is difficult because you're overloaded with things that you have to be ready for. So most Kimberly players get in pretty easily against JP, I think, just because there's so many things that she has to approach with. Yeah, she's got good jump normals as well. Jump heavy kick is really good. And the thing about her jump down medium punch is that it's annoying because she can fake a cross up. So like if she's at this distance, she can get you with the cross up, or she can fake it and go same side. But what's extra annoying about her elbow drop is that if you try an anti-air with JP's crouch fierce, and she makes it whiff with the elbow drop, she can actually get a full punish out of it because crouch fierce has a lot of whiff recovery. Yeah, situations like that happen a lot in matches, where you try an anti-air what you think is a full jump, she does elbow drop, and then she actually recovers first. Where are we? Guile. JP beats Guile. JP might be the only character in the entire game that beats Guile. Guile players hate JP with a passion, and I'm not surprised. I think JP is like the only thing stopping Guile from being like the perfect character in this game. And it basically just comes down to the fact that like Guile's zoning is just kind of hard countered by JP's zoning. So Guile kind of relies on sonic booms being overwhelming in the fireball game, but having a ground spike just completely obliterates that. So JP just kind of wins the fireball war, and that forces Guile to approach. And if Guile has to instigate, if Guile's the one that has to make the openings happen, that's probably a sign that it's not a good matchup. So like in a traditional fireball matchup, 99% of characters, if you throw a fireball when Guile throws a fireball, Guile is almost always going to recover first and gain ground. So like you're not going to be able to keep up with sonic booms because they're designed to be like the best fireballs in the game. But it just doesn't hold up when I can just do like this behind the sonic boom. So because I can go underneath it and behind it, even though we both get hit by the fireballs, the damage difference is pretty significant. So like if you notice, if I trade a spike with a sonic boom, I'm doing 960 damage to him and he's doing 660 to me. So like even in the case where I don't manage to hit him out of startup and we both take the hits, the war of attrition is being lost by Guile here. So that forces Guile to engage, and he just doesn't have the rushdown tools you need to get in easily against JP. His drive rush is okay. Like, he has drive rush, crouch, medium kick, but it's not that scary. Yeah, plus in this situation, JP gets a knockdown, so you can use this to like set up the next stage of your zoning. You know, you can put up this, you can do all this. Guile just can't really keep up with that volume of projectiles coming out. Against any other character with a fireball, I think Guile probably wins. But against JP, because his fireballs are kind of unorthodox and can just spawn underneath you, Guile just doesn't have the tools to keep up with that. Jamie is a weird one. I think Jamie has a disadvantage, or I should say JP has a slight advantage against Jamie. Jamie does get scary as he gets more drink levels. He gets more tools to deal with JP. He gets a dive kick, which is always a difficult thing to deal with. And his breakdance special lets him go through projectiles. But I just think that he has to clear too many conditions to get around it. Like, Jamie has to jump through a bunch of hoops to be able to hold his own in the matchup. And that is just asking too much against JP. Like, JP controls the match from round start, and Jamie kind of has to claw his way back with drink levels. So I think overall that averages out to, like, JP being in the driving seat from round start. Chun Li, I think that JP also has a slight advantage against. It's kind of similar to Guile in this sense, where Chun Li's projectiles are very good. She's got lots of ways of controlling neutral with fireballs and her fast walk speed. But again, I just feel like her tools just can't really counter JP's zoning. Her only good anti-zoning tool is Hazanshu, usually EX Hazanshu. But it's like a significantly worse version of Cammy's Spin Knuckle. Like, Cammy's Spin Knuckle is meterless and plus on block and beats fireballs. Chun EX Hazanshu costs 2 bars, is much slower, sometimes beats fireballs, and is like -3 on block, I believe. Oh, OD version is -5. Thank you, not -3. No version of Hazanshu is plus. Luke. This is even. This is very similar to the Ken matchup. I actually think this matchup, in my opinion, is slightly easier than the Ken matchup, but I don't want to move it that far up to slight advantage. I would say this is like here, it's even 0.2, if I could, but I haven't got that many gaps in between my in between the tiers. So Luke has all of the things that Ken and Juri have. He's got a very, very fast drive rush. He's got great normals, DP, good fireball, lots of ways to approach. He hits like a truck. Luke's damage output off stray hits is demonic. But I don't think he has. The reason that I think Ken and Juri do slightly better against JP is that both of them have ways to force their way in outside of drive rush, whereas I feel like Luke has a tiny bit of a tougher time because drive rush is like his only good approach against JP. You know, Ken has Dragon Lash to get in and be plus, and Juri has dive kick and her low fireball. Luke doesn't really have an equivalent of those moves. He's got charge heavy flash knuckle, but that's 1,000 times slower. He can't do fireball drive rush. No, that's true. So I do think that if I could, I would move Luke to like here, very slightly in JP's favor, but I'm going to stick with even for the time being. Alright, final character is Ryu. This one's kind of a funny one for me because I've been playing Ending Walker so much lately, and Ending Walker has been stealing my soul and winning those sets quite convincingly, but I still think JP wins this matchup. I just think Ending Walker is really, really good at this matchup. Ending Walker constantly asks me, like, why do you think this is in JP's favor? He's convinced it's like 5-5 for Ryu. I think JP has an advantage against Ryu, even though my results don't show it. That's just Ending Walker being broken. But yeah, so like Ryu is a continuation of what I was saying about Luke, where he doesn't have the stuff that Ken does. So Ken has incredible corner carry off every hit. Ryu doesn't. Ken has a way to give himself plus frames meterlessly using Dragon Lash. Ryu doesn't. Ken's drive rush jump stand fierce links into like medium kick. Ryu's doesn't. You know, Ken's EX fireball lets him pick up grounded combos if he drive rushes behind it. Ryu's doesn't. Ryu is just like all of the extra shit that pushes Ken into extremely strong territory shaved off. So I still think Ryu is solid. He's not bad by any means. I just think that all of the extra little things that Ken has that Ryu doesn't just makes it harder for him in the matchup. The only thing that I will give Ryu in the JP matchup that Ken can't do is this. So Ryu's light fireball, this thing here, is slightly better than Ken's light fireball, and this change is useful because it leads to that same situation that I was talking about earlier, where if Ryu lands a knockdown, let's say Ryu, you know, takes you to the corner and does this, it's actually surprisingly easy for Ryu to do a meaty light fireball and make it +1 or even more. So like that was +3. So the slightly slower travel speed and the slightly faster recovery on Ryu's light fireball means that he can use it as a meaty even in the corner. It like hits the back of JP's hurt box. I'm sure there's like timings for it. Do you whiff a jab? Yeah, there you go. There's lots of frame kills I'm sure the Ryu players all know. So like that's the only thing that I think Ryu actually has over Ken. It's easier for Ryu to do meaty fireball in the corner, but that's not what defines a matchup. Ken has all the other tools that I listed earlier versus one slightly better light fireball for Ryu. So yeah, I think Ryu. Some people think Ryu gets smoked by JP. That's definitely not true. Ryu can definitely fight JP, but I do think it is slightly in JP's favor. Alright, is that everyone? Ah, that's everyone. No, this is not ordered. Everyone in the same tier I consider roughly the same. You know, there's a few like micro changes I would make if I was being picky. But yeah, this is what I think. I genuinely don't think JP has any like terrible matchups, and I don't think he has any like free matchups other than maybe Geef. He's got a lot of slight advantages and slight disadvantages and even matchups. I'm sure people are going to scream at me about this and tell me that he actually wins every matchup 9-1. But for the time being, I'm going to stick with it. Thank you everyone who tuned in. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.